Trials of a Royal Guard. By Ansel. Chapter 43. Secrets of the Day. Princess Celestia rested on her haunches, clearly filled with misgivings. Her forelegs were wrapped tightly around Sunny Day, holding the mare to her chest as a foal might a favored plush toy. Though what I'm about to tell you occurred over 1,000 years ago, I remember it as if it were yesterday. The memory is imprinted on me so strongly it often comes during my lowest hours. When you were gone, Luna, I lived it over and over. Princess Luna, who was still bristling, began to settle. The hairs on her coat started to flatten after the unexpected revelation that her sister was keeping secrets. That was the very same mistake that she'd been admonished for, after all. When Solara and Noctina had agreed to an Alicorn summit, it was meant to be a place to discuss the tensions of the time. The rules were simple: neither house was to bring soldiers and King Sombra would host the gathering on what was relatively neutral ground. The Unicorn Temple of the Crystal Empire was the largest and most secluded of all, so it seemed to be a good location. One that would be away from the influences of the nobility and other important worldly ponies. With a light lift of my hoof, I asked, "Forgive my interruption, but who decided on that location?" Ultimately, Noctina and Solara made the decision after speaking to a few trusted ponies. Archon Ira was the one that offered her temple. Archon Ira. I knew more than my fair share about the Unicorn Temple, and an Archon was a powerful pony. They answered only to the Exarch and each ran their own temple. There was little doubt in my mind the Ira was the pony from the vision. The plot was starting to come together. Who better to ambush and take Alicorns by surprise than the ponies that looked to them as deities? It would be unthinkable. What sent shivers down my spine, however, was wondering what sort of creature could convince those very ponies to kill the Alicorns. Princess Celestia pushed on. I honestly do not know why ponies were so up in arms. Disharmony was everywhere. The fact that we were nearing a civil war made no sense. No pony could point out a cause or incident to spark such a rift. There was simply no reason for it, and yet there we were, meeting on how to calm every pony down and set things right. Nimbus Knight had expressed similar thoughts. Ponies couldn't remember why there was such aggression between the houses. That made no sense. I remembered why we had gone to war with the Sidramore. How could every pony exist in a state of anger without reason? Princess Celestia shrugged almost as if she could read my mind. Yet, it doesn't matter how or why. What matters is that we went. All of us. Luna had just recently arrived, as there had been a gap between her death and her new life. I was told that was normal. The princess's horn illuminated with pure golden light and a small oval appeared on the wall. Images jumped to life within it, flying by faster than I could perceive until, all at once, they stopped on a small, dark blue Alicorn foal. Little Luna. You were so small, and seeing you somehow reawakened the memories of our past lives that were buried deep within me. Not all of them, but enough to know you had been my sister and how much we'd loved one another. I felt that, too, instantly, Princess Luna whispered. Princess Celestia turned to look at the images, and they started to move forwards. In each, Luna was growing ever so slightly with the passing time period, however long that was. She had arrived, as Princess Celestia said, with her cutie mark and was clearly manipulating toys with her magic. Alicorns mature very swiftly and can grow through our entire existence. I pale in comparison to Noctina even now, and I have lived far longer than she ever did. She was able to practice magic more than I, since the perpetual burden of ruling the kingdom did not fall on her shoulders, nor was she robbed of her mentor. Sunny looked up at the princess. I'm sorry to stomp on such a cute memory of your sister, but I don't fully understand how this relates to what happened at the summit. Ah, but you see, it does. Very much so. Noctina deemed Luna and I too young to attend and had made it clear she wanted us to remain home. I begged to go. I huffed, I puffed, I stomped, and I threw a fit before Solara and Lumina. So, they relented. Mentally, I was taking as many notes as I could. Noctina had tried to keep the princesses, well, the students, away. Was that a coincidence? When she found out, Noctina was far less than thrilled. She stated Luna was too small to be left alone in Midnight's Peak without my supervision, so, as a compromise, I was given the task of foal-sitting during the summit. My nose wrinkled. Foal-sitting Luna? I mean, forgive me, but was she really a foal or just an adult in a tiny body? Princess Luna snorted and lightly set a hoof on my head. It is neither, Silent Night, and both. Princess Celestia nodded. Agreed. We existed in an awkward state. Our bodies were those of foals while our minds were developing quickly. What differs so greatly from other ponies is that we would receive flashes of who we'd been in our mortal lives and thus recall the skills we had mastered in them. Despite those facts, no, Luna could not have been left alone. She was still mastering her ability to feed herself successfully. That is not how I remember it, Princess Luna said, a hint of embarrassment creeping into her voice. The projection on the wall shifted to a moving image of tiny Luna levitating a spoon around wildly as she tried to get some sort of goo into her mouth. Out of respect and the knowledge that she'd seen several of my foal pictures, I buried the laugh deep inside me. Moving on, Princess Luna sighed. To get my way, I agreed to foal-sit provided that, during Luna's naps and playtimes when she could be watched by our servants, I'd be able to attend some of the meeting. And, when the day of the summit came, that is what we did. In the main meeting hall of the temple, we gathered together to discuss the state of the kingdom and our houses. I didn't think about it much at the time, but when we arrived, Noctina levitated a saddlebag onto my back with instructions for me to hold but keep out of it. I just assumed it was her subtle way of expressing her displeasure for disobeying her wishes. Was she prone to that? I asked. Oh, yes. Lady Noctina rarely came out and said exactly what she meant. Her punishments, guidance, and corrections were even more subtle. Not that I had much time with her. Solara was far warmer and sweeter. The princess hugged Sunny tighter, as if she was remembering some fond moment. The meeting started and it was almost immediately chaos. Lumina and Azulka just couldn't understand what was going on or why things were the way they were. Both claimed complete innocence and started grasping for reasons. As I said, no pony understood why we were where we were. Noctina and Solara sat quietly and listened. As the mentors, that was their place, after all. They'd given up their sovereignty many years prior. What was odd was that both of them seemed distant. Not aloof, but almost as if they weren't listening. Even when Moonglaive and Dawnbreak got into it, they stood by the wayside. Wait, princess. I thought soldiers weren't allowed, I put in. Oh, Moonglaive and Dawnbreak weren't strictly soldiers. They were representatives of their mistresses. Every alicorn tends to have a pony they're close to. Luna has you, I have Sunny, Noctina had Moonglaive, Solara had Dawnbreak, and so on. Wait, how come I'm just your guard captain and not an official representative like they were? Sunny asked. Do you want to be a representative? I asked. The mare's nose scrunched up and she huffed. No, I nodded. There you go, sunshine. Princess, please go on. Some of us actually do understand the gravity of this and the weight on your shoulders. Sunny stuck her tongue out at me but set her hoof over the white pair that was holding onto her so tightly. Princess Celestia breathed in before she continued. It was during their heated disagreements that it happened. There was no warning, no monologue or explanation, just the flashes of magic as Archon Ira and her priestesses burst in through the main doors. Our reaction was swift, but for some reason, magic seemed difficult to achieve. The others struggled to throw up their defensive spells and the unicorns attending with us were powerless. I managed to shield myself without much trouble but fear got to me. I didn't know what to do. Princess Celestia squeezed Sunny tightly, her gaze going distant. That is when the killing started. First the loyal ponies like Moonglaive and Dawnbreak. They went bravely. Moonglaive had managed to kill 2 of the attackers. Dawnbreak managed 1. It was not enough, though. With our attendants gone, it became a battle of wills. The priestesses worked together to focus their power while my companions struggled to understand what was draining their power. Azulka and Lumina were slain before my eyes as I cowered. Tears flowed down the princess's cheek as she sobbed, I did nothing to save them. Dark spells, twisted by evil magic, slammed into them over and over and I couldn't even extend my shield to them, not because of some charm, but because I was afraid. In all of the violence, I saw Solara and Noctana working together to fight back as best they could. Solara's shields prevailed while Noctana came to me. She grabbed me by the hoof and pulled me to one of the small side doors. "Save Luna and yourself or all is lost," she said to me before pushing me out and slamming the door. Luna leaned forwards. "You didn't actually see Solara and Noctana," she trailed. "No. I'd seen enough bloodshed and I was afraid. I galloped as fast as I could towards where you were, but there were priestesses also going that direction. They tried to kill me with horrible spells. Sickening green lightning and fire. The princess stopped and buried her face into Sunny's mane. I killed them all, I had no choice. My magic worked, and that seemed to surprise them. They underestimated me. Whatever ill will Princess Luna had been feeling melted away to pity and concern. And then you came to me. I remember. You swept me into your hooves and we teleported away." Princess Celestia shook her head. "No, yes. I remember. You crashed through the door, took me into your hooves, and then we were outside the city. You teleported us far away. So far we were in the snow and the city was not visible." "No." Celestia whispered. Sunny's ears shot up and she gasped. "Wait, no, you couldn't have." "Yes, I could," the princess whispered. "Whatever it was they'd figured out I wasn't catching on to. I don't understand." Princess Luna stood to her full height. "Am I to believe that we remained put and that is when the city was sent away?" "Yes. I was so terrified. I knew I needed to teleport us as far away as possible, so I poured magic into the spell. Something went wrong. Instead of teleporting us away, I sent the entire city to I don't know where. It was just gone." Sunny tilted her head back and met Princess Celestia's forehead with her own. "It wasn't your fault. I doomed thousands of ponies to some form of stasis. At least I know that now. At the time, I thought I'd destroyed the city and every pony in it. It crushed me. Were it not for Star Swirl and my need to protect Luna, I don't know what I'd have done. My wings flicked. What a horrific burden." The room fell silent under the weight of the revelation. It was unlikely Princess Celestia had shared this with any pony in hundreds of years, and who could blame her? "Why keep this pain to yourself?" Luna whispered. "What was I to say? Oh, little sister, I killed thousands of ponies in a blink. Neither I nor Star Swirl have any clue how to restore them. There was nothing to be done but attempt to put it behind me and try not to think about it." "And thus you drew within yourself," Luna replied as she went to hug her sister, squishing Sunny in between them. This was too great a burden for one pony. This wasn't the revelation I was expecting, not in the least. The secrets I'd been after might not be here, but I couldn't stop yet simply due to the tears. I cleared my throat softly. "Princess Celestia, who is Maristella?" The princess set her chin on Princess Luna's shoulder. "I truly do not know that name, Silent Night. It holds no meaning. Nor does the Forgotten Winter. I am sorry, I really am. That once again I can't help and that I've lied for so long." "That's okay," Sunny whispered, squeezing her way out from between the alicorns. "We'll figure it out. Silent Night is really good at this sort of thing, right? I normally was when it came to standard operations. This was entirely different. Fighting an ancient enemy that was deeply involved in magic. I didn't have a lot of intelligence to go on and our enemy clearly knew a great deal about us. None of that mattered. Royal guards do not give up, nor are they afraid of a challenge. This was my mission and I'd complete it or die trying. Yes. Yes, of course. We'll put an end to this for good. I do have another question, though, Princess. Yes, she answered. Why aren't there any more alicorns? From what I've learned, ponies are picked. Why haven't you picked any? To ease the burdens. Princess Celestia sat up and exchanged a look with Princess Luna. No more secrets, sister, Luna replied. Very well. I am sorry for the burden you're about to receive, little ponies. The truth is that we, that is to say, Luna and I, never learned how that is done. There can be no new alicorns. What? Sunny shouted loud enough that I knew every pony in the palace had heard her and I didn't blame her. What she had yelled, I'd repeated in my head. My stomach dropped. The princess hurriedly looped a hoof over Sunny's mouth. Be silent, Sunny. Do you realize what would happen if ponies knew this? Sunny flailed a bit to get the hoof off her mouth. Celestia. I should have known this. I'm your guard commander. What happens if you two are killed? Wait, will you die? Do you die of old age? Princess Luna softly replied, we don't know. You don't know? Sunny gasped. We don't know, Princess Celestia repeated. They didn't know. These were the last two alicorns and they didn't know. If they died, who would raise the sun and moon? Who would lead the kingdom? Alicorn magic was far beyond that of the unicorns. There was no comparison. My heart started beating faster and my thoughts raced as I tried to figure out a plan. What would we do? What could we do? There had never been a great deal of danger for the princesses. At least not prior to the assassination attempt in Nordenver. This was entirely different. A threat that could not be denied and an outcome that could not be measured. We should increase your security, I said softly. That was something we could do. Sunny nodded. Yes. More house guards. Better house guards, heavily armed house guards. We'll close the gates, secure the doors, and move every pony to administration offices. Princess Celestia shook her head. No. We will not be walled off from our subjects. Without regard to rank, Sunny poked the alicorn in the chest. That is my decision to make, not yours. Your safety is my responsibility and it is one of the few things in life I take serious. The princess set her hoof on Sunny's cheek and smiled. And I appreciate that, but no. The security we have now is sufficient. After all, if these ponies can manipulate others, what is to stop them from manipulating our guards? Sunny's jaw dropped. She sputtered, they know we, need to assume we're susceptible, I said, forcing confidence into my voice. At least until I can undergo Nimbus Knight's training and hopefully start to teach it. The fewer ponies we have, the easier we can keep an eye on them. Princess Luna nodded. Yes, this is a wise course of action. We still must learn who our enemy is. But how do we do that? I shook my head. We go over all of the intelligence we have and see if we're missing anything. We're going to need more ponies on this. Ponies we can trust. I want to bring Brigadier Armor in on this, plus the ponies waiting outside. Very well, Princess Luna said. Sunny squirmed. What do we do in the meantime? Act as if nothing is wrong, Princess Celestia put in. I believe Silent Night would say, if we show our cards, the enemy will be aware that we know of them. We're better served with that advantage remaining ours. Well said, Princess. That is exactly right. We'll need to keep this to as few ponies as we can. Otherwise, we go about life as normal while we quietly prepare. I don't know if I can do that after knowing all of this. Sunny groused, throwing her hooves in the air. Princess Celestia wrapped a foreleg around the mare and tugged her in. Oh, hush. You will, and you'll do it without telling Azurite and Soren. I can't tell my mates. If you tell Azurite, every pony in Equestria will know, I said flatly. Sunny's ears wilted. This is going to be hard. I nodded and turned to go open the door. We would need the others to assist us. This was not a secret to keep from Midnight Snow. Perhaps if I showed her this trust, she would be on our side. When I reached for the door, I paused as a thought crossed my mind. I turned back. Princess Celestia, what was in the saddlebag? She looked up from where she was consoling Sunny. Of all things, all 6 elements of harmony. The other alicorns gave them to Noctina to hold during the summit, and she just casually gave them to you. I asked, my startled disbelief plain in my voice. Princess Celestia shook her head. I don't think she ever casually did anything. Me either. All right, then. Let's brief the others. We've work to do. I pulled the door open and looked at the waiting ponies. If you'd all join us, please. We have a lot to discuss and your kingdom needs you. I sat at my desk, going over the final preparations for General Ironhoof's return. The first airships would start arriving as early as tomorrow morning with the last showing up by sundown. My body was giving out on me. I'd been working my normal duties during the day and training at all hours of the night, usually after Crystal had fallen asleep. Reliving memories repeatedly was like reliving the physical exertion. I felt Nimbus Knight's fatigue each time I finished. It was wearing on exemplar Feral and me. This situation would only be temporary, however, as once Ironhoof was home, I'd be able to relieve myself of this command. There would be no more ponies to bring home and I could certainly delay any career choices for a short period of time. No royal guard or military position was as important as this. Word had come via messenger that Shining Armor would also be arriving soon. I'd sent for him in a personal letter, strongly encouraging him to come visit to advise me on the very career I was now delaying. He'd forgive the subterfuge once he was briefed on the situation at Hoof. Major Knight, Minister Sombra said in his normal speaking voice. He had actually come to my door instead of just shouting for me from his office. I immediately stood. Sir. I just finished reviewing the final plan for the homecoming and I'm impressed. You've gone above and beyond for this welcome ceremony and reintegration program. Is everything truly going to come together in time? I am very confident it will, sir. This is going to bring closure to our kingdom, so every pony and agency involved is eager to give their very best and then some. Minister Sombra thumped my door with his hoof. Good stallion. I knew you'd get it done. Have you given any thought to my offer? No? Not lately, anyway, but that would be an inadvisable answer. Every pony in the know had to continue on as if nothing had changed. Yes, sir, I gave it thought and it is still high on my list. I've not made any decision. Although, after this duty, I might want a few weeks of leave before deciding. I tried to push some levity into that. It would really be to focus more on my own operation. I'm glad to know I'm still in the running, and you can absolutely have leave. Don't think I am unaware of how long you are here each day and how much effort you put in. On that note, and not to be a hypocrite, but I'm going to leave for the evening. I have a social engagement. My ear flicked. He'd never had one of those before that he hadn't mentioned it to me. Usually, they were affairs of state and I would have some duty to perform. I cleared my throat. I didn't see it on your calendar. You don't need me? Something fun for a change. He shook his head. You can't help me with this, Major. As far as the fun part, only time will tell. Princess Celestia has set me up on what the ponies of these days call a blind date. What did ponies in your time call it? I asked. Mare's meddling. Ah, yes. I guess things don't really change, do they? Minister Sombra shook his head. In over 1,000 years, it seems not. 1,000 years apart and we still had that in common. 1,000 years. He turned to leave but I'd shaken off the fatigue with that thought. Now my mind was racing. Princess Celestia wasn't the only pony in the Crystal Empire when it disappeared. There were many, many more. Most of them would have little involvement with important activities, but Minister Sombra was previously king. He'd been specifically led away from the summit by the very ponies that murdered the Alicorns. This was another avenue of investigation I could pursue, but I would have to do so with the greatest of care. Sir. He paused. Yes. Does the name Maristella mean anything to you? As I asked the question, I watched his face. His head tilted as if he was struggling to make sense of the question. Maristella? Isn't she the assistant to the mayor of Baltimore? No. I mean, yes. Actually, yes, that is exactly right. I apologize, I should have been more specific. I've been reading from the Haven Library again. Do you recall a Maristella from your time? Ah, investigating history again? Shining Armor mentioned that was one of your passions. The name doesn't really ring a bell, but I'll think about it. To be honest, I lost some memories when I was, well, wherever I was. They come back every now and then. I nodded. There was no reaction when I'd said the name. No attempt to hide anything. Just genuine recognition of the mayor's aid. Thank you, sir. Just one more for you. How about Kalinda? Minister Sombra tapped a hoof. Now that one I know. She was an Alicorn from long ago. He paused and chuckled. Sorry, that isn't a very useful context. When I was in my time, Kalinda was ancient. She preceded even Solara, so I know very little about her. I lightly shrugged. When it comes to Alicorns, that seems to be normal. I've noticed that, but it wasn't always that way. The ponies of this time barely even realize there were other Alicorns. I find it off-putting. Though I suppose the lack of aggression between them is a welcome change. Indeed, I replied, trying not to overplay my cards. I was reading an old book by a Nox pony general. Both names came up without context. Minister Sombra replied, Ah, I see. Well, I don't know much about Kalinda. I'd have to imagine the Nox ponies would know even less. Regardless, I don't think any pony really knew her. She was gone before I was born. I vaguely remember some legend about her being an amazing artificer. The sort that creates magical items? Celestial steel and the like? I asked. Absolutely. That and more, at least as far as legend holds. Who can say if any of it is true? At any rate, I'd love to continue this conversation, but I should go. I wouldn't want to keep Blueberry Muffin waiting. I'm sure we'll have so much in common. I smirked. Best of luck for you, sir. Just remember, all the mares are into Saddle Arabia right now. He grunted, just a bunch of sand, before heading out of my office. I leaned back in my chair. Kalinda was an Alicorn. Was Maristella, too, then? If she had been, surely Princess Celestia would know her. There were never more than 6 at a time to my knowledge. Not that that said much. The real question was, regardless of what she was, had Maristella been in the Crystal Empire when the princess sent it into stasis? If so, she could have returned just like the rest of the ponies. That would certainly explain why things were happening now. There was also another issue to address along that exact same line of thought. Had Noctina and Solara been slain, or did they slay all of the Dark Priestesses? Princess Celestia had not seen. If the memory was to be believed, I knew there were additional Dark Priestesses outside of the room performing their ritual. It was more likely that they'd just been sent away like King Sombra and the Crystal Empire. They were my enemy. Those were the ponies I'd need to find. They'd lead me to the Forgotten Winter, and then the princesses would be safe. Now I just had to figure out how to find them. Author's note. If you are enjoying this story, please consider taking a look at Crystal and Maya's website quillenblade.com for extra content such as mini-stories, an Ask Us form to submit questions, responses to said questions, and special rewards for the awesome folks who support our Patreon. End author's note.